Hey, all. Today's topic is fiscal federalism. Now, this is a topic that is guaranteed to show up on your APGOV exam, so pay attention and let's get rolling. So, fiscal federalism refers to how the federal government uses money to influence the policy of the states. And this is going to be made possible by the 16th Amendment, which is going to authorize a federal income tax. And after that, the federal government is going to have a lot of money. And what they're going to do is share this money with the states in the form of grants in aid, essentially big chunks of money they hand out to the states. As you can see from the chart, the use of grants in aid has gone up tremendously since 1960 to the point that the states are really dependent on the federal government for a lot of their money. I mean, take a look at the chart here. You can see that up to 1/3 of state budgets depend on federal grants. So one of the forms of grants that you need to know about is called a block grant. A block grant is a grant that has no real strict rules on how the money is spent. They're offered for general areas of need such as roads, healthcare, etc. But the states have a lot of control in what they do with the money. There's also categorical grants, and this is money with strings attached. So the states have specific requirements that they have to meet in how they spend the money. And this is going to give the federal government a lot more control. Keep in mind that the federal government has gotten into the business of issuing mandates. And these are essentially programs that they tell the states they have to have. An example would be Medicaid, which is state health care for people that qualify of low income, and the Americans with Disability Act, which requires that states provide protection against discrimination for people with disabilities. Now, some of these mandates cost a lot of money to run, but the federal government does not pay for them. These are called unfunded mandates, and you can imagine why they're controversial. An example of one of these would be No Child Left Behind, signed into law by George W. Bush. It requires that every state teach to certain standards and that they use standardized testing to show that they are meeting those standards. Now, this is going to turn out to be so controversial that even Congress at some point is going to water down the requirements so that states have very few federal requirements that they now have to meet. Now, what if a state refuses to carry out an unfunded mandate? Well, the federal government can issue crossover sanctions. They can threaten to reduce funding in other areas if the state doesn't follow the mandate. And like we saw before, states are pretty much addicted to federal money. So this is a serious threat, which essentially bludgeons the states into following federal mandates. Now, in 1980, the Republicans and Ronald Reagan are going to be swept into power, and we're going to see an era of devolution where there's an emphasis on returning some power back to states. Even Democrats like Bill Clinton are going to embrace this. Here's Clinton giving his famous quote that the era of big government is over, and he's going to support cuts to many federal programs. So devolution essentially is going to mean that the federal government is going to issue more block grants that give states a lot more leeway in how they spend money, and they're going to issue fewer categorical grants. And again, those are the ones that have all those strings attached. So quick review, make sure you know what block and categorical grants are and how these grants affect state versus federal power. Make sure you know about unfunded mandates and about the concept of devolution. So that's it for fiscal federalism. This is AP Gov Buddy. Crush that test.